Ladies and gentlemen, some people will only realize how much they need you the moment you stop answering the phone. They'll only see your worth when the seat you used to fill in their life is suddenly empty. But here's the truth. They don't miss you. They miss the access. And if you let that pull you back in, you'll find yourself right where you started, valued only in your absence. You ever notice how some men seem to have a radar that only switches on when you're no longer an option? It's almost comical. They're silent when you're available, but the second you pull back, suddenly they're poet laureates, texting at 2 a.m. Hey, just thinking about you. Oh, really? Thinking about me now? Where was this energy when I was here, open, ready, and giving you my attention? There's a reason this happens, and it's not because they've suddenly had an epiphany about your worth. It's because scarcity is attractive. When something is always available, human nature has this awful habit of taking it for granted. Think about it. If the sun shined 24/7, we wouldn't appreciate sunsets. If your favorite food was on your table every day, you'd eventually stop craving it. We value what we think we might lose. But here's the trap. When someone only steps up after you step away, you can be fooled into thinking their new enthusiasm is proof they've changed. Sometimes it's not change. It's panic. It's the ego saying, wait, I can't lose that. It's not the heart saying, I truly see your value now. And if you let your guard down too quickly, you'll be right back where you started, ignored until you threaten to disappear again. You're not an on-demand streaming service where they can press play whenever they're bored. You're a human being with value that should be recognized in the present, not in hindsight. If someone only sees your worth when you've pulled away, that's not romantic. It's reactive. The question isn't, do they miss me? The question is, do they respect me when I'm here? Men, like anyone, are more likely to treat you as valuable when you treat yourself as valuable first. If you're always available at the drop of a hat, answering calls instantly, rearranging your schedule to see them, never requiring effort, you've taught them that they don't have to earn your time. And here's the hard truth. People value what they earn. If they didn't have to invest, there's nothing at stake for them. This doesn't mean playing games or pretending you're busy when you're not. It's about genuinely living a life so rich and fulfilling that you're not waiting around for someone to text. It's about building your confidence so deeply that their absence doesn't create a vacuum. When you're not accessible, not because you're punishing them, but because you're living fully, they start to realize what life feels like without you in it. And that's when they notice the gap. But here's where you have to be strong. Just because they come running doesn't mean you open the door. You have to ask yourself, why are they back? Are they here because they genuinely see my value now? Or are they here because their ego took a hit? And most importantly, if I let them back, will their behavior change long term? Or will they relax the moment they feel I'm theirs again? When you are no longer accessible, it forces someone to see what they're at risk of losing. But that should only be the starting point. If they don't follow that realization with consistent actions, effort, and a change in the way they show up, then all you've proven is that they liked the chase. And you're not here to be chased for sport, you're here to be cherished. You can't be in the business of teaching someone to value you by withdrawing every time they slack off. That's exhausting. You don't want a relationship where respect is a conditional prize. They should value you whether you're sitting next to them on the couch or halfway across the world. They should care about keeping your heart safe, not just about keeping their ego intact. The moment you understand this, you stop waiting for people to realize your worth. You stop bending over backwards to make them see it. You stop proving yourself. Instead, you start holding standards. You make peace with the idea that someone who truly values you won't need to lose you to get the memo. They'll act like they could lose you every day, not from fear, but from appreciation. There's power in being unavailable sometimes, not as a manipulation, but as a natural byproduct of having your own life. It means you're not in a position where one person controls your sense of self-worth. You're not accessible 24/7 because you have passions, friends, goals, and commitments that light you up. And when someone wants to be part of that, They have to bring their best self to the table. Men will miss you when you're no longer accessible, but that's not the victory. The victory is when they value you while you're still in arm's reach. The victory is when you don't have to teach them a lesson for them to remember how lucky they are. The victory is when their love doesn't depend on your absence to be felt. So yes, it's flattering when they come running after you've walked away. It strokes the ego, it makes you feel wanted, but never confuse being wanted in the moment with being valued for the long haul. Someone can miss you terribly and still not be capable of giving you what you deserve. Missing you just means they've noticed you're gone. Valuing you means they're willing to change to make sure you stay. You are not here to be someone's wake-up call. You are here to live in such a way that your presence is a privilege. You are not here to keep proving your worth to someone who's only interested when they're about to lose you. And if they can't see your value until you remove yourself, then maybe the greatest gift you can give them and yourself is to stay gone. Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Leaving isn't always a strategy. Sometimes leaving is just the reality of honoring yourself. It's not about playing some chess game where you move away to make them chase. It's about recognizing when you've been sitting at a table that no longer feeds you. And when you walk away from that table, you're not slamming the door for effect. You're simply going to find a better meal. But what's wild is how the moment you do, they often come running. Suddenly they have time. Suddenly they're full of apologies, full of promises, full of late night realizations about how good you were to them. And if you've been starving for that acknowledgement, it's tempting to believe every word. It's tempting to think, finally they get it. Except people can miss the comfort of you without actually missing you. They can miss the way you made their life easier, smoother, warmer, without wanting to show up differently. Sometimes they just want the benefits back, not the responsibility. That's why you have to listen less to what they say when you're gone and more to what they do when they have you. And here's the key. If you take someone back, the only thing that proves they've changed is their pattern, not their speech, not their tears, not the emotional flood they pour on you when they're afraid of losing you. Patterns tell the truth. Did they put in effort before? Are they consistent now? Do they still follow through once the urgency of winning you back fades? Because urgency is easy to fake. Sustained respect is not. You deserve someone who doesn't need an emergency to remember you matter. You deserve someone who builds you into their life instead of fitting you in when it's convenient. And if that's not what's being offered, you have to have the courage to keep walking, not as a punishment, not to be cold, but because staying would mean signing up for the same cycle again. And you're wiser now. When you make peace with being missed but not going back, you step into a whole new level of self-worth. It's when you realize that your value doesn't increase just because they finally noticed it. Your value was already there, long before they woke up to it. Them missing you doesn't validate you. It just confirms that you were giving something rare, and rare things stay rare by not being too easy to get. Think about it. When something is precious, you don't leave it lying around for anyone to pick up. You don't discount it. You don't rush to hand it over just because someone suddenly wants it. You protect it. You make sure whoever gets to hold it knows exactly what it took to earn it. That's you. Your time, your love, your energy. These are not clearance rack items. Sometimes the greatest lesson you teach someone is not by telling them your boundaries, but by living them. When you refuse to be available to someone who only wants you when it's convenient, you show them that access to you is not a guarantee. And whether they change or not, you've already won, because you've shown yourself that you will not settle for crumbs. There's a dangerous myth that if you just love someone hard enough, they'll eventually love you the way you deserve. That's not how it works. People don't change because you love them more. They change because they decide to love better. They decide that your presence is worth the effort, the consistency, the showing up. If that decision never comes from them, no amount of your giving will make it appear. And here's the liberating part. When you stop waiting for that decision, you free yourself. You open the door to people who don't need to lose you to understand your worth. You stop auditioning for the role in someone's life who should already see you as the main character. You stop training them that they can disappear and return at will. If A man only misses you when you're inaccessible. You have to see the bigger picture. It's not just about romance. It's about human behavior. Absence can create longing, but longing isn't the same as commitment. Desire in the moment is not a substitute for devotion over time. And if you can hold yourself to that truth, you won't just attract better relationships, you'll keep them. Because when you value yourself enough to set the standard, you create a filter. That filter keeps out the people who only want to orbit your life when they're bored or lonely. It leaves space for the ones who are willing to show up even when you're right there, available and not going anywhere. Those are the ones worth keeping. Yes, they may miss you when you're gone, but the real prize is finding someone who misses you even when you're in the next room. Someone who looks at you and thinks, I'm lucky, not I'm safe until they threaten to leave. Someone who treats every day like they could lose you, not from fear, but from gratitude. And you can only attract that kind of connection when you're willing to let go of the ones who don't meet that bar. Which means resisting the pull of the ego boost when the ones from your past come back. It means being able to look at them and think, I appreciate that you miss me, but I've moved on to where I'm valued in the present, not just in the absence. When you live this way, something shifts. You stop worrying about whether someone notices you're gone because you're too busy living in a way that makes your presence undeniable. You stop feeling the need to disappear to get attention because you've built relationships where your worth is seen without having to vanish. But the beautiful irony is, when you live like this, when you're deeply engaged in your own life, not waiting for anyone, you will be missed. Not just by men who let you slip away, but by everyone who experiences you. Because people remember energy like yours. They remember how you made them feel, how you carried yourself, how you lit up a room. And that memory will always create a pull. Some will reach out, some will come back. And when they do, you'll be in a position of strength, not desperation. You'll have the clarity to ask, is this person truly different? Or are they just uncomfortable with the space I've created? And you'll have the courage to choose based on what serves you now, not what you wished it had been before. This is where true empowerment lives, not in making someone miss you, but in being so sure of your worth that whether they do or don't is irrelevant. Not in hoping someone will wake up to what they had, but in walking with people who never fell asleep on it in the first place. Not in clinging to the return of someone from your past, but in building a future where the people beside you are there because they chose to be every single day. And maybe, just maybe, that's the gift of those who only missed you when you were gone. They remind you of what you will no longer accept. They show you the gap between wanting and valuing, and they push you, even unintentionally, toward the relationships where you don't have to disappear to be seen. And that's the irony of it. The people who couldn't see you clearly when they had you often end up being the reason you see yourself more clearly than ever before. It's like they hand you a mirror, not because they wanted to, but because their absence or their delayed recognition forces you to look at who you've been, what you've allowed, and what you actually deserve. And once you see that truth, you can't unsee it. It's not about bitterness. It's not about holding grudges. In fact, it's almost the opposite. You can feel gratitude, not for how they treated you, but for the role they played in helping you evolve. They became the catalyst, their inconsistency, their hot and cold nature, their sudden burst of effort only when you stepped back. It all became data. And you, being the wiser version of yourself now, learned to read that data instead of ignoring it. When you first start valuing yourself, it can feel uncomfortable. There's a part of you that will crave the old attention, even if it wasn't healthy. It's like your mind still remembers the sugar rush from the validation, even though it knows the crash that comes after. And in those moments, you'll be tempted to answer the late night text, to believe the "I've been thinking about you" lines, to hope this time will be different. But you have to remind yourself those quick hits of attention are not the same as real connection. Attention is easy, effort is rare, commitment is rarer still, and you're here for rare. You're here for the kind of consistency that doesn't require you to disappear in order to be appreciated. It's also worth saying that not everyone who misses you after you've pulled away is acting out of bad faith. Some people genuinely don't realize the depth of your impact until there's space. Some do learn, some do change, but you can't base your decisions on potential. You have to base them on patterns, because patterns are the clearest truth we have in relationships. If their pattern has been showing up when it's convenient, pulling back when it's not, disappearing when you need them, and only resurfacing when they feel you slipping away, then no amount of sweet words will erase that reality. And your self-worth comes from honoring what's real over what you wish were real. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't need to be chased, who isn't waiting around for someone else's approval. When you get to that place, people feel it. They sense that your life is full with or without them. They sense that you're not playing hard to get. You simply are hard to get because your time, your heart, your energy are too valuable to hand over light. And that's where the dynamic flips, because suddenly you're no longer the one worried about whether they'll come back. You're the one deciding if their return even fits into your life anymore. You're not wondering if they'll text. You're wondering if you'd even reply if they did. That's the shift that changes everything. But it doesn't happen overnight. It comes from choosing yourself repeatedly, even when it's uncomfortable. It comes from sitting with the silence instead of rushing to fill it with someone who once made you feel seen. It comes from building a life so engaging, so rich that someone else's inconsistency doesn't derail you. And here's the beautiful part. When you live like this, you stop attracting people who only miss you when you're gone, because you naturally filter them out. They can't get a foothold in your life if they're not consistent, because your standards won't allow it. You'll spot the pattern early, and instead of bending to fit it, you'll walk away without drama. You become immune to the cycle, the one where they disappear, you feel the absence, they return, you feel the rush, and then you're back to square one. That cycle only survives when you participate. The moment you step out of it, it dies. And in its place, you create space for something far healthier. There's a deep peace that comes from knowing you no longer have to disappear to prove your worth. You no longer have to engineer scarcity just to be valued. You no longer have to wonder if the only way to keep someone's attention is to stay slightly out of reach. Instead, you can relax into relationships that are built on mutual appreciation, not constant tests. This isn't just about romance, it's about life. Friends, colleagues, even family members can fall into the trap of valuing you more when you're gone than when you're present. The principle is the same. If someone only treats you well when they're afraid of losing you, they're not truly treating you well, they're treating their fear. And that's not sustainable. You want people in your life who act from love, respect, and gratitude, not fear of absence. Fear-based connection fades the second they feel secure again. Love-based connection deepens the longer you're there. That's the difference. And the moment you get clear on that difference, you stop mistaking temporary panic for real change. When you hold this mindset, something powerful happens. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop needing to justify why someone should treat you well. You stop explaining what you bring to the table. You know it, you live it, and you let your standards silently communicate it. And the right people will respond to that. The wrong people will fall away. And that's a blessing, not a loss. Because if the only way someone can value you is by losing you, then they were never going to value you enough to keep you in the first place. And that's not your failure. That's their limitation. You can't fix it for them. You can only protect yourself from getting caught in it. You'll notice that when you adopt this way of thinking, the people who come into your life treat your presence like the gift it is. They won't wait for you to leave to remember your importance. They'll tell you, they'll show you, and they'll keep showing you, not because they're afraid, but because they're aware. That's the kind of energy you want to build your life around. People who notice the sunset every evening, not just the night before a storm. People who water the plant before it wilts, not after. People who see the value in your consistency and meet it with their own. And the way you attract that is by embodying it yourself. You value the people in your life while they're here. You express appreciation. You show effort. You stay present. You model the behavior you want. That way, when someone else steps up and matches it, you'll recognize it instantly and you'll know it's real. So when someone from your past shows up because they miss you now, you won't be swayed just by the nostalgia or the flattery. You'll measure them against the standard you've set. You'll ask yourself, do they value me now because I'm gone or because they've grown? And you'll have the strength to walk away if the answer isn't enough. Because at the end of the day, your worth doesn't spike when you're absent and dip when you're present. It's constant, it's unwavering, it's not determined by who notices it or when they notice it. And once you anchor yourself in that truth, you'll never again be at the mercy of someone else's delayed appreciation. And the moment you truly live by that truth, everything about the way you carry yourself changes. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces where you're only partially appreciated. You stop overcompensating for someone's inability to meet you halfway. You stop measuring your worth by how much someone else notices you because you already know the measure. You've set it yourself and it doesn't move. It's a quiet kind of strength. You don't have to announce it and you don't have to force anyone to see it. You embody it in how you choose, how you respond, and most importantly, how you walk away when something doesn't match it. It's in the way you no longer negotiate the basics: respect, consistency, presence. You don't argue for those things anymore. You expect them and you align yourself with people who give them without needing to be reminded. The interesting thing is, when you operate from that place, people treat you differently almost instantly. It's not magic, it's clarity. When your boundaries are firm, when your energy is selective, when you don't jump at every breadcrumb of attention, it sends a message. If you want to be in my life, you need to be intentional. That message doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from self-respect. And people feel the difference. This is where the dynamic flips permanently. You stop being the person wondering if you're enough and you start being the person deciding who's enough for you. That's not selfish, it's balanced. Because if you give your energy away freely to anyone who comes along, you dilute it. And your energy is not meant to be diluted. It's meant to be shared with those who see it, appreciate it, and contribute to it. And here's the beautiful ripple effect. You start showing up more fully in every part of your life. When you're no longer drained by trying to prove your worth to the wrong people, you have more space for the right ones. You're more present with friends who genuinely care. You're more inspired in your work. You have more energy for the hobbies, dreams, and adventures that make you feel alive. And when you're living in that state, you become magnetic, not in the fleeting way that makes someone panic when you're gone, but in the lasting way that makes them cherish you while you're here. It's the difference between a spark and a steady flame. A spark is exciting, but it burns out quickly. A flame warms you, lights your way, and stays alive because it's tended to regularly. You don't want people who only react to the spark. You want people who tend the flame. And you can only attract that if you are tending your own. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They think if they pull away, it will make someone value them. And then they can go back to the same dynamic as before. But that's not growth. Pulling away might create awareness in them, but it should also create awareness in you. If stepping back makes them suddenly act right, ask yourself, why did they need to lose me to get here? And what will stop them from needing to lose me again to stay here? That's the question most people avoid, because the honest answer often points to a hard truth. They're not built for the consistency you deserve. And if they're not, it's not your job to train them. It is your job to protect yourself from the exhaustion of trying. Protecting yourself doesn't mean closing yourself off to love or connection. It means being open but discerning. It means being warm but not naive. It means allowing people to show you who they are through their actions and believing them the first time. Because when someone shows you inconsistency, that's not an accident, it's a habit. And habits don't change without deep internal work, which you can't do for them. The more you embrace this, the more peace you'll feel. You won't be waiting by your phone, wondering if they'll reach out. You won't be decoding mixed signals. You won't be bargaining with yourself about whether you're asking for too much. You'll know that your expectations aren't unreasonable. They're simply a reflection of how you treat yourself and how you treat others. And if someone can't meet that, it's not a match. And here's what's fascinating. When you live like this, even the ones who only miss you when you're gone will feel the difference. They'll notice that you're not playing the game anymore. You're not withdrawing to bait them back in. You're just gone. Not in anger, not in bitterness, just in clarity. And that clarity is often more powerful than any speech you could give. It tells them, without words, that your life is moving forward with or without them. Some of them will try harder, some will let you go, but either way, you'll be okay because your sense of value doesn't hinge on the outcome. You're not in the business of convincing anymore, you're in the business of choosing. And you choose people who choose you back, in the present, not in the panic of losing you. This shift will affect not just your relationships, but the way you navigate everything. You'll start showing up to opportunities differently. You won't feel the need to over-explain your qualifications or beg for a seat at the table. You'll walk in knowing what you bring. And when something doesn't align, you'll walk out without fear of what you're leaving behind because you trust hats ahead. It's a trust that's built, not given. You build it by keeping promises to yourself, by saying, I will not go back to situations that drain me, and actually meaning it, by saying, I will only engage with people who respect my time and following through. Every time you keep those promises, you reinforce the truth. You are worthy of being valued in the present, not just remembered in your absence. And when you live this way, your world starts to reflect it back to you. The invitations you get, the opportunities that arise, the people who show up, they all start to match the standard you've set. Because you've become a magnet for the energy you put out. You no longer resonate with half-hearted effort, so it stops showing up in your orbit. Does that mean you'll never encounter someone who only realizes your worth when you're gone? No. But it does mean you'll recognize it immediately, and instead of getting pulled into the cycle, you'll simply step out of the way. You'll wish them well, but you won't make yourself available for another round. And in doing so, you protect your peace, your energy, and your time. And the most powerful part, you'll reach a point where you no longer need them to miss you at all. Because the ones who matter, the ones you've chosen, won't need to. They'll value you every single day. They'll know your worth without needing the shock of your absence to wake them up. And you'll know theirs too, because you've built a life that only has room for mutual recognition, mutual respect, and mutual effort.